All right, everybody, it's another episode of the Reserve Man Podcast. I'm Jake Brown. I got with me GP.
Man, what's happening?
Shagari.
What up?
What's up, Stan?
Yo, what's good, bro?
Man, if we got a great episode for you today,
As usual.
we can't wait to share it with you.
Man, let's get started.
You know your credit score, man. I'm not that's solid quality time. Right. Why is Steve Harvey still writing books? Wait a minute. No, if I want you, I ain't say you to Waffle House at 2 a.m. Bullshit. Hey, I care about you. We going to Waffle House.
All right, everybody, we are back, man. It's been a while. We know we took a break.
Long break.
Need a vacation, man.
So, okay, it's like church. Let me give you a
That's
couple
what
of
it was.
announcements. Moving forward, y'all, we going to be releasing on Thursday. Not Tuesday, but Thursday. So,
Every other
go
week.
ahead, man.
Nah, GP said it. He covered it.
Every other week.
And every other week.
Right.
Man, look, it's hard for full, hard-working brothers to pump a show out once a week. You know, we got burnt out. That's why it's so late.
Right.
It's like having another job
No doubt.
that doesn't pay.
That's real.
We love y'all just every other week.
Right.
All right, so let's introduce our guest, Miss Janea Jamison. How are you doing today?
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay, cool beans. Well, my name is Janea Jamison. Yes, I said my name again because I love saying my name, as I said earlier. I am from Napoleonville. I always like to start that off because I never want to forget where I come from. Small country town, a rural girl. Me and GP went to the same high school. Shout out to Ascension Catholic.
Say it one more time.
Shout out to Ascension Catholic.
All right.
But yeah, so went to Southern University. I'm really engaged within the community outreach, civic engagement, voter education. I also have my own podcast, Her Story Podcast, which centers around women empowerment and just encouraging other women and creating a platform for them to use their voice, as well as a fitness influencer. But my background and what we're going to be talking about today is the Census, and I'm with the Power Coalition. So we're the statewide civic engagement table, and we do a lot to just amplify the voices of our people who look like us, you know, those black and brown communities, underserviced communities, and fighting for them at the legislative and policy level, and creating different tools and programs to empower our people so they can seize their power.
Okay.
That was good.
Fine product of Ascension
I know,
Catholic High School, man.
Go Bulldogs.
That's it.
Well, other than Ascension Catholic,
I just gotta say,
What's-
he been so hype. He's so glad to have somebody else come in and
Yeah.
root for his school. He's glowing over
Hey,
here.
man.
The head,
I'm proud of my people, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what you do with the Power Coalition, that's interesting. I was just wondering a little bit about what's your educational background.
Okay, well, I graduated from the Southern University. Shout out, go Jags, in political science, and my master's is in public administration. So my background is in policy and politics and community outreach.
So you're one of those few people that actually use your degree.
Yes, ain't that a blessing?
Really?
I prayed for it every day, and God opened the doors. So we're here.
I have one quick question. So, what led you to the Power Coalition specifically?
Okay, it's a very interesting story.
All right, let's have it.
So basically, I will say throughout my college career, I did a lot of like organizing. I was Miss Freshman. I was on the SGA Senator Student Body, ran for Miss Southern. So I always knew that I had a voice, and I was able to organize different folks. During that time period, you know, Bobby Jindal was in office, so we did a lot of rallying at the Capitol to try to secure the funding for our university and for our school. So I knew that I was an organizer, and then I did a lot of work in office management work in the law office and introduced me to different, I guess you will say, different community leaders, which also ultimately led me to working for a Councilwoman Erica Green in District 5.
You know, Eric.
So, North Baton Rouge holds a special place in my heart because it's where Southern University is, but also it's a poor area and it's an underserved area.
Right.
And so when I was working in that district office, I saw individuals that looked like me, that looked like my aunts and my uncle, and they didn't have anyone who was really using their voice and speaking for them, and at the city level for sure. And so at that point, I knew that I was a problem solver and that I could use my tools and my gifts to push different policies and, you know, and educate the councilwoman about what were the concerns of her constituents. So the Power Coalition came to Baton Rouge. It began by Ashley Shelton, who's Baton Rouge native, born and raised. But they came to the city council office to try to coordinate different warrant clinics to help with fines and fees for those who, you know, didn't have the funds to pay for them.
Right.
And I coordinated that meeting, and Ashley, you know, she was like, you know, you're an organizer, you know how to use your voice. I really would like you to do some work with the Power Coalition. I was like, well, you know, Ashley, keep me in mind. You know, I love it here in Baton Rouge. I'm looking for different opportunities to help expand and broaden my reach and make an impact throughout the state. So that's how I was introduced to the Power Coalition, and I loved it from then.
Okay. Cool. And how long have you been with them?
I have been with the Power Coalition for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
Nice.
And even though y'all are based out of New Orleans, y'all do work all across the state, correct?
All across the state. We are statewide, so we have different offices in Alexandria, in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Shreveport. We're trying to organize in Monroe, Jay. So maybe you can help me coordinate that and help folks out there too.
I know a few people over there.
Yeah, and even this past legislative session, when we had our Unleash Local campaign to try to get our state was in the preemption of our state for minimum wage, we did a lot of organizing with the river parishes. So again, you know, shout out to Napoleonville and Donaldsonville. You know, I just speak to my people.
Big ups.
You know, I just speak to my people.
We had what's his name from New Orleans, GP.
Royce Duplessis?
Yes,
Yeah,
Royce
yeah.
actually sponsored that.
We had
Yeah.
Royce on here to talk about the minimum wage bill.
Right. Yeah, Royce is definitely good people, and he fought for the people not only just in New Orleans but for, you know, the entire state.
Erica's been on here too. You know all our people.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I know everybody. You know, I'm greatly connected.
So for people who may not be as familiar with the organization, can you give us a few examples of what the Power Coalition would do for things in each community?
So I would definitely say this past election, voter engagement, the increase in African American turnout, that was the Power Coalition.
Hey, look, thank y'all so much for that, because I was nervous. I was nervous.
So I will always say this, you know, at the end, right before the runoffs, you know, I was impressed by the enthusiasm of different people, but the voter turnout increase did not just happen by a few push of these events at the end to try to get people influenced. It was base building, grassroots organizations on the ground since July, knocking on doors, door to door, educating our people about the importance of going out and making sure that you actually cast your vote.
Right.
So, we did that through canvassing, we did that through phone banking, we did that through Hustling, which is our texting app. Also, the Power Coalition, for the past 5 years, we've traveled throughout the state and did different tours, listening session tours. We listened to the concerns of our people, and that's how we actually drafted the policy and fought at the Capitol to get certain laws passed that reflect our people. So we do a lot of education, but again, I had mentioned earlier, you know, we have different programs. So we have Community Activist Fellowship Program, which is a grant that's given to different women of color specifically throughout the state of Louisiana who are doing different community involvement. So we give a grant to $1,000 to $3,000 to help build out their program. Right. We also do a lot of work that's centered on our Black men and boys and fighting for things such as criminal and juvenile justice reform.
Okay.
So y'all actually do some lobbying as well.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
A lot of, I will say, policy advocacy at the Capitol for our people.
Okay, policy advocacy. I like that.
Yeah, that sounds better than
lobbyists. Yeah, much fancier sounding.
Right.
Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, y'all, and we'll be back with more. We're going to talk about the census coming up, why it's important, why you need to participate. We'll give you that right after this. All right, everybody, we are back with Janea, Jamison. You want to say it one time?
Janea Jamison.
From Ascension Catholic.
Ascension Catholic.
Yeah. Anyway,
Hater.
Janea, what is the census and why is it important?
Okay, what is the census and why it is important? So, the U.S. Constitution mandates that the census is distributed every 10 years, right? So, the census began in 1790, but during that time, it was used to tally like political power and public funding unjustly and unequally. Like, what does that even mean? What it meant was when the census first was mandated, it said that it counted every white person, but only 3/5 of our enslaved African American ancestors were counted and natives weren't counted at all. So of course we know from the beginning of time we're thought less than human beings and we weren't given the proper fundings or resources or anything of that nature. So I think that it's very important today that folks are counted, at least for the names that we didn't even know of, for the voiceless back then, right? But also the data of the census, it allocates $800 billion in funding for federal programs. So those federal programs, it attributes to voting access, to food security, such as like our SNAP and our WIC, for health care, our Medicare, our Medicaid, and for our school systems, for our Head Start programs, for actual food in children's bellies, for money for the administrators. So many different things, for transportation, for our roads, for hospitals. The census just connected to everything. So we deserve to get the funding and the resources to our communities and to our people. But when you look at the census data and when you look at African Americans, for instance, we have the highest undercounted population. In this past census in 2010, 816,900 black people were not counted. That's bigger than the population of Alaska. That's bigger than an entire state. And for every person that wasn't counted, our state missed out on $2,291 per capita. That's money that was left on the table. And when you look at the state of Louisiana, we're at the bottom of the barrel across almost every quality of life. We don't, as I was talking about earlier, our Unleash Local campaign about minimum wage, we're preempted for minimum wage. So we don't have a set minimum wage, right? We have the highest child poverty rate. We have the second highest poverty rate. We're ranked number 50th in the country as one of the poorest states. Mississippi has passed us up. Mississippi has passed us up, okay?
Used to be able to count on Mississippi.
Right.
So
we
now,
was at least 49.
Right, exactly. So now it's more important than ever for us to get this funding for our state.
Right.
So how does so many people get unaccounted for? What are the ways that we're missing out on these numbers being reported correctly? What's the cause of it?
Education, the educational component right here. If people don't know, if they're not talked to, if they don't know the importance, if they don't know what's at stake, they're not going to participate in it. And why I say that is because it's the same technique and things that we have used with voter increase, right? What we noticed is, again, looking at those smaller communities, because Louisiana is rural. When outsiders think of Louisiana, you think of New Orleans. There are so many different small towns, like Napoleonville and Donaldsonville, and the river parishes. But when I look at different organizing with GOTV, one, it's important for people from the community who look like members of the community to speak to these people, to educate these people, and help them know how much power is within their voice, within voting, and with participating within the system. Because as we know, the system doesn't work when those directly impacted are not included within that system. So it's definitely an educational component, and it's done purposely. Hard to count communities are our black and brown communities.
Well, let me ask you, because historically, a lot of the things that you just spoke about, WIC and SNAP and a lot of other benefits, once you become a felon, it can affect your eligibility for all those benefits. From Section 8, tweet cards. Is that what they're called?
Tweet cards.
Yeah. So is there anybody that's exempt from being counted for the census?
No.
Even people that's ineligible to vote?
No, not at all. Well, for instance, this past legislative session, right, there were 40,000 individuals, formerly incarcerated individuals, who now actually have the right to vote. Giving back the right to vote. But the census, is important that every single person is counted. We're talking about those who are incarcerated. We're talking about those who are in nursing homes. We're talking about little kids and babies. And like those non-traditional families, you know, some people, they are told once if you complete the census, if one person completes the census, you're good. No, you need to count every single person under your household, because again, every person that wasn't counted, we're missing the funds that are on the table for our state.
So how do you participate in the census? Like, is it something that you can do online, like for people who don't know?
Right. So I always say this: the census, it's 3 ways, 10 questions, 10 minutes. So this year, the push is to complete the census online, which is another factor, right? Most of our poor communities don't even have access to the internet, which, you know, speaking for myself, but it was not done. It was done intentionally. But you can either complete it online, you can complete it over the phone, and then there's paper questionnaires that are going to go out. Now, you cannot call in to request a paper questionnaire. They're going to mail that to you, but it's only a small percentage of that that's going to be mailed. So that's why it's important for us to organize and galvanize our communities and encourage them to take the census online. So different methods and ways that I have thought of is, you know, doing different presentations at quarterly meetings with our Head Start program, since so much funding is needed for those type of programs, collaborating at the state and the city level with different council members. They often have different quarterly meetings and things of that nature with their communities. Even partnerships with libraries, because, you know, the census data is used for funding for libraries, using them as hosting sites or having someone there to educate the people how to actually to complete the census online there, even using the school systems that have computers, collaborating with different churches. Actually have a meeting with different pastors throughout the state tomorrow to try to coordinate Census Sundays. And that is, you know, a spin-off of how the pastor can educate his congregation, but also we can go there with different laptops. We have tech to support some of these different organizations throughout the state and encourage and educate people to complete the census.
Is it based on where you live or where you reside?
It's based on where you reside in that moment around April 1st.
Because I'm saying, like, if you're in college, like you live here, but you're in college, or you're doing a temp job.
Right, so I'll say this. I do not really care if we're counted more than once, because we need the funding just that much, right? So technically, if you go to LSU, but you live in Assumption Parish, you're supposed to count yourself in Baton Rouge or in East Baton Rouge Parish at LSU using that address. But we are so underfunded within our black communities. If I was enrolled at Southern University and I wanted funding for the small community in Assumption Parish, guess what? I would count myself at Southern because it's in North Baton Rouge where we're underfunded. And I would also count myself in Napoleonville as well. And I would leave it up to the federal government to determine about something how they allocate those funds.
Okay. So would something like a census block party be legal?
Yeah.
Because, you know, like it's hard to get us out. So if we got somebody like the Bootsy or something that said we're gonna do this census block party, and we had the people out there with the laptops and collecting that information to where it's easy to get everybody out there, and you just collect that information in that community. Since it's a block party for the community, it might be something that could work.
That'd be dope. You know, that's a conversation I want to have with you offline too. Because I'm thinking, you know, you go out there with a bunch of mobile hotspots and tablets, and
that's the price of admission,
and have a good time.
Hit a census block party. Give us your info,
and I can think about, you know, some sponsors, you know.
Right. So I think it's really important too, for instance, for us to get this information out, because I had a conversation with a young black attorney, and even some of the facts and information that was given to him, he was unaware of it. So if it's the educated community and the professionals who don't know, we really have to talk to our people within the community and use non-traditional methods to get them engaged around it. So I'm calling everyone who is an influencer, who can organize and to get people, to participate in it. So if that means having a block party, if that means having some type of launch event or anything like that, then we should definitely do that because, for one, the Power Coalition, we're having like a digital census kickoff where I'll be doing a Twitter town hall using different influencers who are experts on certain things to educate people online. But also on February 4th, we're having an in-person kickoff. That will be in New Orleans. But the kickoff on February 4th, once we're going to launch our GOTB report so we can celebrate the people, the community members who help increase this voter turnout and also get them educated around the census.
Okay, so I got a couple questions for the listeners and for myself, and I just wanted some clarification again. So first is, what's the time frame on it? So it's April 1st through what?
So it's actually mid-March you're going to start receiving the invitation in the mail. So it's like, let me look at, I don't want to lie to you. I have the calendar somewhere with me. March 12th through the 20th, the census is going to send households invitations. And that invitation is going to have your ID number and the link to how you can complete the census online. Okay. Then they're going to follow up with an internet choice invitation, which is you can complete it online or here's this paper questionnaire where you can complete it. Then they're going to have various other invitations and follow-ups in between then. And around May, you're going to see some people from the National Census Office on the ground knocking on doors, educating the people. But again, most of it is on our base building groups to educate our people in the community. A lot of people have complete count committees. Complete count committees, which is a makeup of our different influencers. The governor's office has a complete count committee. I think Mayor Broome has a complete count committee, and different mayors throughout the state have them to try to educate our people and use the influencers from the actual communities to help people engaged around the topic. And one thing I wanted to point out though, me as an individual, I cannot help someone. I cannot take the census for someone, right? So a census enumerator can help someone with the census. But if we host different events and things, then I can't help Tommy. I can't sit there and fill in Tommy's information. Tommy has to fill in the information. I hate that I use the name
stand next to Tommy.
But I can stand next to Tommy and help Tommy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got a really quick question. I heard when they start invitations, but I didn't hear a deadline.
Okay, so April 1st is the actual Census Day, National Census Day.
Correct.
They're going to have people out there. You can still take the census until around July. So May, July is going to be like that cutoff point. You're going to have people that from the census office that are on the ground knocking on doors. July is going to be the cutoff point, and then the government is going to collect all of this information, and by December everything needs to be submitted.
So basically mid-March or July is the time frame.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And earlier, you stated that it was intentional that they that being online, doing online applications for the census is or filling out the census online is the push now, and that you said they would be sending out, they'll be mailing stuff out, but not.
Like a smaller
Like
percentage.
a smaller percentage of
Right.
So each person will get one, or it's just like they might send it to a third of the population.
Each household is going to, 80% of households are going to receive an invitation to tell them that the census is coming, right? Then that same percentage is going to have a follow up of the actual ID number for you to complete the census and the link. Then about 20% is going to receive the paper questionnaire. And then in between those different dates, you're going to be given invitations and also, hey, here's the number we can call in and complete the census. And that's just, again, that's Janea speaking, saying that sometimes I feel like it may be intentional, again, because you have these different hard-to-count communities. You have people who do not have access to the internet or, broadband. And I always reflect back to where I'm from. Here it is 2020, and it's still hard for you to get Wi-Fi and things in some of these rural communities. So it makes it even harder for them.
Gotcha.
Are you aware of a website or phone number where people can go to register or apply to go door to door?
As an enumerator, I do not know the specific phone number, but I know you can go. I think the website is like Census Bureau or .gov or something like that. Yeah, census.gov.
Because I feel
They're
like
paying decently from what I've seen.
Yeah.
they are, because
Like 20 an hour, 25 an hour, something like that.
it's 24. It's something like 24.75 an hour or something like that.
Right. So yeah, I would definitely encourage people
It is
to apply.
census.gov.
To apply for that. And again, like even with the census, you know, the data that's collected to the census, it can bring business opportunities to your community too. That also, it relates to, you know, Louisiana, we're poor, you know, but at the end of the day, the data collected, businesses use that to build factories, to build plants, to build offices. So that can even bring job opportunities to your community.
Well, I mean, also, I feel like people would be more inclined to open the door if someone knocking looked like us.
Right. And again, when we do our grassroots organizing and door to door, we pick people from those very same communities to knock on those doors. When we did our GOTV campaign, we paid people a living wage at $15 an hour, which is like the ultimate fight that we have been fighting for over 20 years, right? But we pick people from the community so they can be trusted voices of the community. And we're going to do the very same thing from the census with the Power Coalition. With Power Coalition, we have to get everyone throughout the state, not just Orleans, not just East Baton Rouge, everyone throughout the state to participate in this. So it's important more than ever to have folks from the community who look like them, who they know, who are trusted voices to encourage people to do it. And even when you look at the importance, another reason why the census is important, we use this equation: representation plus resources equals real voice and power. And what that really means is that the census data is used to draw political maps, and so that, you know, our congressional and legislative districts are being drawn from the census data, and they also use the census data to draw congressional seats. So when you look at different states and how many seats are in each state, that is pulled from the census data. So it's all about, again, seizing our power and making sure we have fair districts and fair representation so that people's voices are heard.
You answered that was my next question. Redistricting.
869,000 unreported. That's some missing seats.
Yes, some missing seats. In 2010, Louisiana lost a congressional seat. So it's important, y'all. It's so important. And, you know, some people, they may feel disengaged because they don't know. When someone feels as though they're ignorant of a topic or they don't know, I'm good on that. But that's why it's important that we use our voices and educate our people. Because what I did learn is, once people are educated and know what they can do with their voice and with their power and what happens after it's done, they're intrigued. This past GOTV season, we had developed the concept of the power voter. So the power voter was someone who, one, holds their elected official accountable. They were going to take someone to the poll with them, vote in every election, and participate within the census. So you know, we're looking for power voters.
Yeah, we got to make that cool again. The thing I have an issue with is, like you said, when people don't know about stuff, they don't want to speak up and say they don't know, because we get on the internet, just like with the impeachment stuff, you saw nothing but statuses shaming people because, man, y'all didn't learn this in civics and blah, 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 because they didn't know how the impeachment worked. And I saw nothing but black people clowning other people because they didn't know how impeachment worked. Man, I took civics. I didn't remember how the entire process went. But we got to stop shaming each other for being ignorant of stuff. And
we need to help each other, educate each other.
Teach them. Don't shame somebody for something.
And I will say too that powercoalition.org, that's our website, but you have census toolkits on there, you have policy and legislative toolkits on there, you have different toolkits that show you how like a policy can be voted on the floor and can be drafted into a law, like the entire process. So we have to find ways to educate our people and to organize and build collective power.
We talk around every election. We don't know what everything on the ballot be about. Like, and I know we had talked about we wanted to do something that kind of educate on what particular bills were going to be about. Because sometimes we don't know, and we feel like we're pretty knowledgeable. But sometimes
you go to
like
vote.
you just go up in there and
Yeah.
pressing
Right.
buttons.
And you're making a big mistake sometimes too because you voted for the wrong thing. And
Because we don't know about it, we don't read up on it. So we've talked about having little voter parties where we educate each, not tell each other how to vote, but necessarily
Educate
tell
each other about the policies
what it
and
is.
what the
issues.
policy is and what it's going to do and why it's on the ballot.
and find out, man. I remember one election I was going to vote. You know, I called Jay on the way to Donaldsonville to vote, and I'm like, bro, like what is all this stuff? And you know, and I wasn't ashamed to do it because I knew what the big items were, but I didn't know everything, and I felt like just by making that phone call, I was a more informed voter, and I think as responsible voters, that's what we need to do. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And we need to connect our younger people in too, because a lesson that I learned this past election season was the younger people, they're really disengaged and they don't really know. So we did a lot of organizing on our HBCU campuses, like we're looking at Southern University, even Southern University in Shreveport. We talked to the students at Dillard and at Xavier University, and also Benjamin Franklin High School, like starting at that level, and even George Washington Carver High School as well. But some kids really didn't understand the process or even who was on the ballot. So I will say again, another way to get plugged in, using the Power Coalition as a resource, because we had the 501c3 ballot, which again, we are a nonpartisan organization, so we did not have candidates on there like vying for a specific candidate, but we had who the candidate was, you know, what their party association was. So, you know, it gave you the opportunity to look to see who was on the ballot.
Right.
And then we also had created a report card, like a candidate report card, right? So it looked at the past legislative session for the past 2 years, what issues our people had wanted to see and what they were fighting for, and how each person voted and how they actually felt about this position. So it's all about finding different tools, different ways to educate our people so they know what's going on.
Children are never too young to learn. Stop telling your children to stay out of grown folks' business. Because they need to learn about politics
Right.
and policy and finances.
Right.
And all the things that are going to be useful when they become adults. They need to start learning now.
So I have a question about undocumented immigrants and how they will be impacted by the census. So for instance, if they have a child that's an actual citizen but they aren't, would they be afraid to come forward and, you know, claim that child on the census, or are there any other reasons why people would be afraid to come forward to fill out a census?
Right. So I can't personally speak for that population, right?
Right.
But what I can say is that there isn't the non-citizenship question on the census anymore. And I will say this, that there is a fear. I've had real conversations with different people within these communities about them being fearful, about them, you know, actually being a citizen and having family members who are undocumented. But at the end of the day, if we are receiving any type of funding, or if we are living in a certain, you know, community, or have vouchers or Section 8, even if you were formerly incarcerated, we are already on paper regardless, you know, and we can see, I mean, throughout history that they obviously didn't use that information because these different sections of the community wouldn't have been undercounted to begin with. So there's definitely a fear still, but if you're already on paper, you're on paper. But I will say this though, we need to talk to the Latinx community, the Vietnamese community, to talk to them about messaging. At the Power Coalition, we have New Orleans Workers Center, which their organization has a base that is focused specifically on the Latinx community, and then we have VELA, where there's a Vietnamese community. So I've been having different conversations with people from these communities about their fears and how we can engage this population. But again, the goal is to count every single person.
Gotcha.
With that said, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more right after this. All right, everybody, we back. We still got Janea Jamison in the building.
Hi.
Let's see. So we talked about the census and the power coalition. Are there any other key causes that we need to start taking immediate action for 2020?
So most definitely, I mean, if we're looking at the black community and those whose voices aren't really amplified, we have to think about the federal elections, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm nonpartisan. We got to do what we need to do to put the right person in office that's going to reflect our morals and our values, right? So definitely the federal elections, we have statewide races, district attorney races.
Right.
We have one U.S. senator seat, one congressional seat. So elections, again, they're going to be very important, trying to, galvanize and organize our people to increase that voter turnout.
And we will be having shows leading up to the elections where we talk about some of the candidates and the issues.
Right.
So, now that we got all this serious stuff out of the way, let me ask you, who are your top 5 singing artists?
Okay, so if anyone knows me, number 1 is going to be Michael Jackson, the king of pop. Then it will be Whitney Houston, my boy Prince, and y'all laughed earlier, the OJs.
First of all, I didn't laugh.
Thank you, friend. Thank you.
I mean, I respect them, but would I say they top 5? Man.
Well,
And all right,
Over Luther?
great entertainer.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll
OJ
give
is
you-
over Luther.
I'll give you great entertainer
Well,
on mic,
yeah.
but singer?
He
Well, we
yes,
did-
he was. And always will
Well,
be.
I mean, whatever your criteria is, that's your criteria.
It's no debate.
Yeah,
It's no debate.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Mike is like the best
can't-
vocalist,
wait.
but he's a singer.
I
though.
can't-
We asked
I
for
can't
Janea
really
Jamison's
say-
Janea Jamison's
I'm
opinion.
supposed-
Right?
Okay, wrangle us back into your
Janea
criteria.
Jamison's
Okay, what's
opinion.
5?
So what's 5?
Al, Hot Grits. Most
Oh,
definitely.
yes.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm with it.
Okay.
Again,
I'm here for this
We're
list.
going to talk about the country and my upbringing. My father owns a bar, Jamison's Bar, that has been in existence since 1954 by my grandfather, Lawrence Jamison, who sought a way out of no way being an entrepreneur and providing for his family. But with all that being said, it's a juke joint. My dad still got a jukebox, and when he gives me those coins to play my favorite songs, it
what
will
you
always
play.
be around the OJs. It's going to be Al Green. I love Michael Whitney. You asked for a top 5, but I'll include Marvin and Luther in there. It's good music,
Okay.
man.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
OJs had more
everybody
hits
she
than
picked was
Luther.
good.
You know,
It wasn't anything egregious.
The OJs had more hits than Luther, though.
I'm not going to even address
No,
that.
absolutely. What you mean?
Eddie
Luther had
Levert
like 2
is
hits.
great. He has
Luther
great
got
voice.
2 hits?
2 good ones.
Boy, you sound...
Sound-
And my
sound
mama would
foolish.
fight you over there. My
I'm
mama,
just saying.
You sound
My
very
mama
sound-
cried.
You got Here and Now and never too much. That's about it.
A house is not a home.
You haven't listened.
House
to
is not a
any
home.
Luther.
That's overrated.
Dog.
Teddy Pendergrass would chop up Luther any day of the week. Not even close.
Turn off the lights.
That's 2 totally different styles, man.
I don't care. Give me
You gonna
Teddy
get
P over
backlash
Luther.
off this episode. for
That's
saying
fine. I'm at GP_Becknell.
That's
Hit
like,
me up.
That's like putting Tevin Campbell head to head with Aaron Hall. Like it's 2
First of all,
totally different styles. of
That's
singing.
disrespectful that you compared either one of them brothers to Tevin Campbell. I'm just saying.
Who was the other person you compared?
Tevin Campbell had a great voice.
Luther
He was a big kid
and Teddy P.
in his time.
Oh, okay.
But to say, yeah, you kind of being disrespectful towards Luther, though.
Man,
Yeah, very
give me the
disrespectful.
OJs any
These boys
day. of
said
the week.
You acting like Luther Milli Vanilli.
2 hits?
I mean, I didn't say that, but I'm
You
just
said
saying.
2 hits.
I mean, Luther is one of the greatest artists.
Yeah.
But
Did say 2 hits.
You said 2 hits. Like, he would have been in your top 20.
He'd be top 20. He wouldn't be top 5.
With 2
2
hits?
He wouldn't be top 5.
All right, bro.
Bruh,
Let's move on.
that's one more than Milli Vanilli.
They lip sync though. Luther sang that though.
And lip syncing is all we know now.
Oh man, don't get me started on these new cats.
They got a few singers out there, man.
But no, it's not.
Uh,
It's
a
got a few
few.
singers, but they can't sing.
They not like-
while they perform. So Milli Vanilli was ahead of their time.
Miguel the same.
Yeah, I like
Some
Miguel.
leg dropping people while he performed.
Well, he's different.
my
I
goodness.
mean, homie can sing, though.
Yeah, he
I like
good.
Miguel. I like
Yeah, he can
Miguel.
sing.
He did kick that chick in the forehead.
I mean, most of the people ain't mainstream, but they got
Right.
singers out there.
It's a different time though. Like people not getting opportunities just being able to sing.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
You know,
You gotta do all this extra
what's that dude, Jeremiah?
Jeremiah.
The
He's
supposed
he
new
wants to
king
be
of
the
all-
king.
No, you talking about Jacquees.
You talking about Jacquees.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever his name is.
But he the king of R&B.
The king of R&B. You know what I'm saying? Whereas,
Can he sing to you?
Like,
I mean, he can hold a little tune.
can hold a note.
Let me quick, because you might know that man personally. He listen to this podcast. Forgot he from right there in the city.
He can hold a little tune. That's it.
one, you got cats getting on real young. They don't have no life experience. They're not singing about nothing.
Right.
And two, they're not getting opportunities based on just singing talent. You know, whereas you used to have cats like Otis Redding. He wasn't a very attractive brother.
Sitting on the dock of the
So
bay.
when he started singing about having a broken heart, like you could feel it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
He ain't had to be attractive. Wasn't no social media. Wasn't nothing but the voice and the radio.
when he showed up,
Get American Bandstand.
he didn't need
you know?
nothing but the voice.
I mean, they got
You know?
some. They got some that can't sing that's still talented.
Like,
With writing like Black, like he can't sing.
But he got his own sound.
He got his own
thing.
sound and he
got
can
his own
write.
sound and
And he can write.
He
So
got
he
it.
talented from that standpoint.
He got a little swag. You can be ugly swag, and you know I ain't
Yeah.
here judging no man. He
Yeah.
got a swag. He got a nice sound. He's
Nah,
from Atlanta.
I rock with him.
Yeah,
I
that's-
rock with him.
But back in the day, you had to bring it.
Yeah,
You
can
did.
know
I will
what
say
to
that. You know, back again to
When-
Michael
when-
Jackson.
When you had your
Michael started as 5 years old when he performed for Barry Gordy, you know, and he did the thing. You know, he was talented.
When you had your Teddy Pendergrasses going up against your Isleys
That's
and
what-
your Marvin Gayes and your Al Greens and all of them trying to put out the best hit. Like I remember, I think it was Isley that I saw was talking about that.
Right.
Like they was all competing against each other. Like who can put out the best love song.
Right.
That's why we
Like-
be so shocked when these new rapper artists and these little young kids now pop up with millions of followers and we don't know who the hell they
Right.
are.
And like I'm
What
so
do you even
disengaged. Like I don't even know. Y'all could call me old school or whatever, but like I was talking to one of my homeboys just yesterday, and he was talking about this new upcoming group or something in New Orleans. I'm like, huh? What? You like? Where you been? I was like, I've
You
never
talking
heard
about
of
the
them.
dudes that do the little
The
the little
dancing.
viral videos.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. You
The
know,
one that
but
did the little flip like a Power
See.
Ranger.
something like that. And
Yeah.
I was just like, sir, I don't
We
know.
put that video in the group. We're like, what the
Yeah.
hell is this? The dude with the little, all the little multicolored
I
hair.
don't know.
They look like a girl group, but it's some guys.
Don't know him.
Hey.
Yeah, man.
But I'm for everyone, you know, doing their thing.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, if that's your God-given talent and gift, go ahead and do it.
But
It's just
I'm,
shocking.
I'm gonna keep our old tradition going in 2020, and I'm just gonna put it on the air. What's better, Family Matters or Martin?
Martin.
Sorry, GP.
Okay, Martin.
Yo, that's your people,
Hey,
dude.
that's fine. And she's still my people.
That's your people.
She's still my
From
people.
your neck of the woods.
We can agree to
Yeah,
disagree.
we can agree to disagree. I'll watch episode of Martin with her.
Nobody's agreed.
That's fine. Hey, I don't care.
No, we had one guest agree with
Hey.
you.
We did have one guest.
We had one guest.
Who said?
I don't think that episode aired.
Hey, TGIF is all I gotta say, man. I'm a TGIF brother. Always will be.
So Family Matters over Fresh Prince too.
Oh no, nah. Fresh Prince is my
Okay.
number one.
Okay.
Fresh Prince is my number one. Family Matters, like 2,
And they
3.
was talking about this on the Breakfast Club. There ain't no mention of Family Matters.
I don't care. You know, I'm good with that.
Now you had something else on one too, like hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Oh my God.
Hanging with Mr. Cooper, I don't think that was over Martin.
It was top 5.
No.
But hey, I love hanging with
You
Mr.
said it
Cooper.
was in your top 5.
It was. He played with the Warriors. It's great TV.
Your people looking at you kind of sideways.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. Let her hang with Mr. Cooper marathon come on right now. I'm gonna watch.
Where's
I
my
can remember
Cooper?
2 episodes.
Honestly,
of Hanging with
that's
Mr.
not gonna
Cooper.
come on.
Me either. Me either.
I don't remember 2 episodes. Has it ever got a rerun?
Where is Mark Cooper right now?
He beat
Hey, you
with
know what?
Steve Harvey right now.
Hey, I saw Mark Curry at a comedy club in Atlanta, maybe like 2
Has
years
somebody
ago.
ever been interested in buying that show and putting it back on their show? You know, hits like
It ain't coming.
I saw it
back.
on TV
The
One.
Fresh Prince gets bought by different
But
stations
obviously,
all the time.
TV Fresh Prince is way more popular.
Netflix ain't even picked it up. Hulu haven't picked up Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
But did Netflix pick
Not even
up Fresh
Prime
Prince?
or Voodoo.
They probably can't afford to.
A lot of
Probably
shows.
not.
A lot of shows. Like somebody can afford Hanging with Mr. Cooper. Somebody.
Yeah, I'm just saying. And when they do, I'm gonna watch it. That's all I'm
That's
saying.
a
All right, friend.
That's
good.
it. That's it, man.
All right, everybody. We're going to take a brief break, but when we come back, we're going to give you this black prominent figure. You know we're going to do this all year round and not just during Black History Month. And we're going to give it to you right after this. We are back with the black prominent figure. Who do you have for us, Miss Janea Jamison?
Well, I have to say, who I have for y'all is my soror and Ivy Beyond the Wall. She has passed, Coretta Scott King. And why I chose her is because when I was a fellow in BOLD, which is Black Organizing for Leadership and Dignity, it's a national program where we focus on the Black organizers throughout the country and just how we can galvanize each other and just leverage our work and our leadership capabilities. They looked at me and they were like, you know what? You like one of those pretty activists, you know, and I didn't take it to offense at all, because she was a prominent figure within the civil rights movement. She was a part of the movement before her husband. She was a part of the movement after her husband. We celebrate Martin Luther King Day because of her, because she fought to make it a holiday. She fought for equal pay and women's rights, and you know, towards the end of her civil activism and her career, she fought for LGBTQ rights as well. So she represents everything that I represent, and so she'll definitely be someone who is one of the number one influencers that I hope to one day live up to her level.
All right.
All right, Coretta Scott King, everybody.
So, Janea, tell us where we can find you.
Oh, you can find me everywhere. So I will say this. If you do follow me on Instagram, I'm at Janea, Janea _ Claire, CLAIRE, the number 13. If you follow me, then you'll see the work that I do with the Power Coalition. You'll see the work that I do with my podcast, Her Story. You'll see the work that I do with fitness, with Closet Fitness. So Instagram is definitely that one tool that you can find me with everything that I do.
Wait a minute, what's Closet Fitness?
So Closet Fitness is my fitness brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I always share my story. When, you know, my younger years, as early as grade school, I fought with self-image and who I was when I looked at myself in the mirror. When I share this story, you know, often people are like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful, da 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 da. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how others perceive you, it's how you perceive yourself. So from an early age, I was influenced going to a small private Catholic school. You know, I went to St. Elizabeth before Ascension Catholic, but it's the same type of makeup, and I felt almost ostracized or inferior at times, being the only black girl within school. And you saw these different images on TV. You saw different images like I always use Lifetime, right? But I always fought with who I was, and I even was anorexic. You know, I did not eat at all. The teachers paid attention to this, and so they called my parents over to the schools. And even my physical appearance, you know, I love Michael Jackson, but at the end of the day too, I would cry sometimes at night over my nose. I had acne, just everything, like growing into myself, even you know, me wearing braces and glasses and things. So it took my mother giving me positive words of affirmation and knowing that, you know, you are beautiful. God doesn't make any type of mistakes. So I took what I once used as working out, because I started working out when I was in the 5th grade, 10, 11 years old, waking up at 5:30 in the morning, because I had a goal at that young age that, okay, I need to lose weight in my waist, or I need to lose weight around my thighs, even that young. So I took what I once used as a component to try to fit in and me being unhappy with who I was, and I used it as a holistic approach around health and wellness. So Closet Fitness is an online store where it caters from women who are size small all the way up to 3X. So it's just a community to help uplift and empower each other to accept ourselves as who we are and to love ourselves as who who we are. And that also relates to my podcast, Her Story, which is an acronym for heroic, empowering, and resilient. And we're looking at women of color, who we are, and how we turned our adversities into triumph.
Amen. All right, if you are still listening and you do not follow us and you have not subscribed to our podcast, shame on you. With that being said, I think we've said it all.
I think so.
I don't think there's anything left to say.
Glad
Thank you
to
for
be
coming,
back.
Janea Jamison.
No problem. Thank y'all for inviting me. You know, shout out to GP, Ascension Catholic.
That's it. Send your cat a go Bulldogs.
Go
It's
Bulldogs.
good to be back,
And
fellas.
we'll have you back.
Yeah.
And we are out.
You know your credit score bad. I'm not gonna lie, you on the Starbucks page. That's solid quality time.